Good morning, everybody. Could I have declarations of interest, please? No declarations of interest. Urgent items, we haven't got any. And item agenda number 3, new fixed trading sites. And we have Craig here who's going to give us his wise advice.
Chairman, hate to raise expectations, but I'll do my best. So, I actually wasn't going to say an awful lot. I mean, it is a very brief report, and I think it's very self-explanatory. So what we've done in the infrastructure team is just look at the potential of fixed trading sites, you know, within really the kind of centre or the more central area of Hewtown. So what we've done is we've identified 7 potential sites. I think all of them have merit. So what we have done, as you'll see, is a kind of brief analysis, and that's on the back page of the report. So we've looked at various impacts, particularly from highways, parking, accessibility, service provision, and any impacts, obviously, potentially on the amenity of residents. So we have done a kind of scoring. You'll see that we have come out with a preferred site. That is option 6, which is in the vicinity of the Porthcressa Square, and it's adjacent actually to the current TIC and public toilets. And the benefits of that are a number of reasons, partly because it will help consolidate and cluster various other fixed trading sites. I think I might have a question.
Yes. What part of the enjoying the food experience is stood by a public loo?
It's. I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. I can see the point. But having said that, it's still a good facility to be close to, and it's also very close to the shelter as well, and close to other establishments as well. So it's actually creating a cluster and some consolidation. So we still think it's the preferred option. There does need to be some work, though, because it is actually at the moment that area is actually raised and there is a wall. So it does need some preparation work. So that has been spec'd. But we think the costs are going to be fairly minimal, and also with the licenses and the fees that we actually get back for trading, that will actually in the long term will actually more than pay for itself. I've really got nothing else to add, but I'll be pleased to take any questions or queries.
Shall we take them one by one, or do you want to take number 6 first?
I've got just a general question to start. Well, 2 things. The advantage of, with regards to Amanda's comments, the advantage of the toilet is it does have a canopy to wait under while you're waiting for your food to be prepared. So I do use that canopy whilst waiting for me chips. I guess the second question in terms of the preparation of this report, and okay, admittedly, I give my apologies, I wasn't at the last meeting. What discussion has been had with existing traders to get their views about sites for trading? So what have we done to actually talk to the people who might be applying for these sites?
I mean, I think the purpose of this analysis really was because of the general interest that we'd had, particularly I think when you've actually gone out for a competitive process for fixed trading sites. There was clearly, pardon the pun, an appetite from certain traders for actually more fixed trading sites. And so I think all I was tasked with was actually looking and identifying the potential for more fixed trading sites actually within the central area. And rather than being on the back foot, it's made much more sense to be on the front foot to actually identify what options are available and actually looking at the pros and cons of each of those sites.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I support fully what Craig says. And for the people that weren't at the other meetings, we do need a 3rd site for this year. There's been a very strong tender that we feel needs to be taken into. They've done a lot of work on these. St Mary's is small. There aren't ideal sites, but I think what they've done is a good bit of work in quite a short time. And also in coming up with other suggestions. So if in the future the numbers of fixed trading sites might go up. So I think we've got to really consider, we do need to make a decision today so this third tender can be made use of rather than not. And I think looking at all the sites, that preferred site of number 6, I think it is, I listened to the chairman's comment about being outside the loos, but the other two are what, 25, 30 yards away. The green is there to sit on. You're not going to stand under the toilets and eat your food, are you? So I think it's near it, but it's
my colleague.
It's, you know, you're not going to go inside and eat there. So I think on the whole that all of these recommendations make sense, and I'd like to leave here today that sort of supporting those.
Councillor Gotti.
Thank you. I'd like to agree with everyone, actually, and more bits of what everyone is saying. But what I would agree with the Vice Chairman, that I think it's very essential that we try and find a third. But what I would like to suggest is that, firstly, that we look at each site on its own, because I have severe reservations as lead member for children about one of the sites. I don't think it's a safe place to have a food outlet, because it's got very close to the road and children and things, but I'll explain that further. So if we could perhaps look first, with the Chairman's permission, at how we might accommodate the unsuccessful tenderer from the first process, and then perhaps we could move on after that. Would that be a wise way forward?
As far as I'm concerned, yes. Chairman,
No, all levity apart, I do agree that we need to leave this room with a decision in hand. The short answer is we don't have any ideal sites. That we all know that. So there are going to be misgivings about any site we pick. As far as I'm concerned, I hear the arguments about 6. I still prefer 3. Can you put your mic on if you're going to speak?
Can we do both sites, like have 3 and 6 as being possible sites, and then is that going to be practical or not really?
Well, Chairman, the way the report actually has been drafted, and also the recommendations, it's basically saying that members agree in principle to the use of all 7 sites, notwithstanding the debate that you might have, and you may disagree with that, and discount 1 or 2 of those sites, depending on obviously how the debate goes. But effectively, what we're saying is, 7 fixed trading sites become available certainly over the next couple of years, and obviously based on that, it will be a case of supply and demand in many respects.
If I might just finish what I was going to say before about 6 and 3, Chairman, is that right?
Yeah.
If we were to approve, if we were minded to approve 6 and 3 today, we would build some slack into the thing and thereby avoid the necessity for reconvening like this. Yeah. Then possibly it would be up to the tenderer to choose which site suits best. Is that a way forward?
I would say so.
I'm happy to second that proposal.
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry.
Do you think it's easier to take that proposal and second it and vote on it, or shall we then have a debate first and then vote? Because I would really like some debate on this, because I would like to really go through the list to find out which sites are...
I'm more than happy to defer to your wish for a debate, as long as my recommendation stays on the table.
Your recommendation can stay on the table, but I do think we should have some debate about the other sites as well. Councillor Saville.
Yeah, sorry. First of all, can I just ask, has the environmental health, Mr Curry, been spoken to about number 6 being adjacent to the public toilets? Because he should have an input into the siting, I think, there. And also, is number 3, which I prefer, is that the right distance from another
Firstly, I'm not sure the proximity to the public conveniences would necessarily be an environmental health issue, because what you have got in there is running taps and everything else. And I think it's basically, the whole environmental issue would be to do with the actual premises or the street traders themselves in terms of their food hygiene rating. I think, and on the second point, what we have done as part of the exercise is looked at the kind of proximity to other retail outlets as well, to ensure that we are within the current licensing policy. So we have taken that into consideration. But to my knowledge, we haven't directly consulted the environmental health officer on these sites.
Because certainly in restaurants there are certain regulations, as Craig would know through building regulations, about citing toilets near kitchens, etc. Are there not?
Yeah, this is the public toilets are a self-contained building, so I don't think there will be any hazards actually coming from the public toilets. And it would be, and the street traders themselves would obviously be subject to the kind of food hygiene inspections that the environmental health will actually do as part of their inspections once the fixed trader is actually in place.
Councillor Mumford.
First of all, could I ask Councillor Martin to repeat her proposal, because I didn't catch it all. Sorry.
I suggest that we approve both sites 3 and 6 in order to build some slack into the, that doesn't need to be worded and thing, but I would like us to approve 2 sites with the advantage that we have some slack in the system, therefore avoiding the need to reconvene like this, but also that way any tenderer could choose between the sites.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Councillor Hicks. Sorry.
Sorry. I'm not in favour of number 6 because, for one, I don't think it's an ideal place to have it by the toilets, and also you're going to have to dig around a bit, removing a wall, I believe, a part of a wall. I would be in favour of 3, as long as it's, I think, is it 50 yards it's got to be away from?
25.
25 yards, is it?
That should be fine. 75.
I thought it was 25
25 metres, so it would be more yards, wouldn't it? How do you work that out?
It's 25 metres.
Right,
25 metres.
and site number 2 is very near the Wesleyan Club that also does food, I feel. I don't like number 4 outside the chapel, and I don't think number 1. In fact, I'm not really in favour of very many, but number 3.
Can we then now just take them in order, unless you've got anything to say on what's gone previously, Councillor Hicks?
No, I'm happy to go with Amanda's suggestion of 3 and 6.
Have you got anything to say that's about what we've already been discussing?
No, I think the Chairman's suggestion is a very good way forward. I must admit I'm a little bit ambivalent about 3, and I do think 6 could work, because although it's close to the toilets, if everyone remembers the way the toilets are actually structured, there is an entrance lobby first, so it's not even as if the toilet door is more or less open to the street. There is that safety net, if you like. I agree about the emissions, but presumably Mr Curry could vote on that. As long as at some point, Chairman, we can actually talk about the other sites, because I am very worried about site 1. I'm a bit ambivalent about site 3, because a harbour view, when you're sitting with those lovely seats, it's one of our most iconic views at the harbour. And I'm a little bit concerned about it, but I think perhaps we allow it for this year and see what our visitors think.
The seats are long, aren't they?
Were you wanting to say?
Yeah, well, it's not repetition, but we all understand that none of them are really ideal. And I have to say, even though I agree with the Chairman that 3 and 6 are the best 2 options, I personally like 3.
Yeah.
I personally like 3, that's my favourite choice, but I'm on for 6 as well. I think it makes sense to have 2 options, as Councillor Martin says, the Chairman says, that we get some slack.
Yeah. I do think having a little bit of slack in the system is what we need.
We can go round the houses saying how dreadful they all are, but we need to choose at least a couple, I think.
Councillor Coombs.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to leave this room without reaching a decision. For location 6, I'm presuming the thought is to take out that low wall that's currently got a planting area. And we've got to make this work, so I'm asking this question in the principle of the practicalities of whether it will actually work as a site. I presume we're looking at trying to site a trailer in that area. Have we actually measured up and made sure realistically you can easily get a unit into that space? Because, again, we're not stood there, I haven't got the dimensions, but it does seem particularly awkward to get a trailer into that location. So we do need to make sure that these sites actually physically work, because we will look a bit daft if we allocate a site and then you find you can't fit the trailer on that site. So what detailed work has been done to establish the fact that it will actually fit in there?
Well, Chairman, the size of the site actually we think is actually acceptable, but that of course depends actually on the trailer, the size of the trailer, and of course we don't really know until the applications come forward. So from that perspective, you could argue it is probably more restrictive than some other sites which aren't constrained by physical boundaries, because that clearly would be. I mean, in effect, it functions as a lay-by.
Councillor Sims.
Just 3 would have no constraints on any of the existing vehicles which may want to use it at the moment. It's fine size-wise on that. I'm familiar with all of them, so it wouldn't be any issue getting in there, I don't think at all.
Councillor Mumford.
Has there been any consultation with the people who own the buses for site number 2?
Chairman, this was really a desktop exercise, so there's been no consultation actually on this document at all.
And also, has there been any consultation, or is it up to us to put what hours they can trade?
This is the policy.
It is.
That's in the policy,
it is up
isn't
to
it?
us as a policy,
Yeah.
yes.
Because site number 2 is not a bad site, but I think there would have to be consultation with the people who own the buses, because they do park their buses there.
I can probably respond to that. Buses aren't parked there.
Oh, they don't?
No, it's not on bus stops. So in effect, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the people who park the buses, isn't it? It's anybody else who parks anywhere.
Yeah. So therefore,
Chair of Council.
Yeah, just as a matter of respect, I cannot support 4 or 2. Both are outside places of worship, and I think that would be extremely wrong.
Can we now just stop, because we're going round in circles? Please, can we take site number 1, which is outside the town hall? Anybody in favour of site number 1? Anybody against site number 1? So therefore, we can cross that off the list.
We'll discount that one.
Site number 2, the Lower Strand. Anybody in favour of site number 2, or do you want to discuss site number 2 anymore?
Chairman, can I just come in there as the only representative from the licensing department here today? I'm not sure whether or not there's electricity and the power for any operators has been, whether or not it would be easy to put in any of these sites or not, or whether or not we're thinking of not putting in any at all. I'm not sure. And that might be a consideration here. And another consideration is whether or not sites 2 and 3 during gig weekend, whether or not they can operate. I think when it was street trading, we closed the road, so in effect there was no street to trade from. But I think with a fixed trading site, I think that would probably endure throughout an event, I would imagine, but food for thought.
I think I understood, talking to Teo, that electricity would be taken into account. Is this right, Craig?
You'll see that in the impact, some of the assessment does actually require accessing to services. What you have, though, certainly in the Lower Strand area, you have got potential access to electricity because obviously we have upgraded the services as part of the public toilet improvements. So there is potential for electricity. But again, it really depends on the type of street trader as well, because some street traders require electricity and other street traders don't require electricity.
I think the one that we're thinking of does. Well, they have got a generator, but to eliminate the generator,
No.
I think he does need electricity.
Chairman, I had understood that the whole rationale behind the identification of sites was based on access to services, so I have taken that as a given with the DESPES exercise.
Yes.
Also, in the site of the Racabite Slip area, that there is a clear understanding that trading cannot take place during the period around the gig weekend. That is also an identified facet of the site.
That's specified, yeah.
Well, the road's closed for 4 days anyway, so you couldn't get in there.
Councillor Grotty.
Might I just suggest there's several things that I think we need to do, that if we took the Chairman's recommendations for the two that we might find less contentious, would a site visit be helpful? And also I think after that, before we broaden the scope of fixed trading sites any further, I would like to see that we talk to the Island Partnership and possibly even traders who at the moment pay a lot of business rates to make sure that, I know they're not exactly going to welcome street trading, but that at least we do engage, so that we perhaps take it that way.
Do you want to come back on that one? Nigel?
Yeah, just one thing. Can I look at recommendation 3, that principally today we're here because we want to give that third trader a site this season. So whatever else we do, can we do that one? And then I quite understand Councillor Grottick's views on the other ones, and yeah, happy to have site visits and tick them yes or no, but I'd like to vote on the one so we know we've got a third trader with somewhere, but very happy to walk around all the other ones afterwards and do a yes-no sort of survey.
Yeah, I do think it's incumbent upon us to make a decision today.
That's the reason we're here, for that one trader, really.
We're on 2 at the moment.
If we, just for the sake of my kind of sanity, can we go through them, just put to one side which we want to go and have a site visit for, which is a definite no, and which is highly possible. When we get to the highly possible, then we can discuss the highly possible ones and then vote on them, and then decide what we're going to do with the others. Councillor Sims.
2 we're talking about now, aren't we? I don't think the fact that it's outside places of worship is particularly relevant unless they wish to trade on Sundays, really, because... well, not very often during the week, though. There are evening services, yeah, but they're not that often outside of Sundays, really. Then again, I don't go to church that much. I may not be entirely the right person to respond.
Councillor Grottick, I think Councillor Grottick had her... Councillor Grottick.
Thank you. I think we've got to accept, it depends really on what kind of, almost our public perception is. And certainly the Methodist chapel doors are open and there's a notice saying, if in your busy holiday work stroke whatever, you like to come in and have a period of quiet reflection, here we are. I don't think it's appropriate to have the fast food outlet immediately outside. And by the same token, we should offer the same respect to our Roman Catholic friends.
Absolutely.
So...
I propose that number 2 and one opposite the chapel, which is number 4, are removed. We put across.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Does everybody agree? Does everybody agree with Councillor Savile's proposal?
Yep.
Thank you. So there's a cross...
Knocking them off. I reckon 7 will get knocked off as well.
Right, number 3, Upper Strand. Now you're mostly for this one. Councillor Mumford.
Yes, I propose that number 3 is a possible.
And I would second that.
Did you want to say something, Councillor?
Just quickly, I think subject to review at the end of this particular season to see the impact,
Okay, yes.
I would tend to go along with that.
Councillor Sims.
I just put my license to second the proposal.
Okay.
Chairman, I think with the policy that you would be reviewing everything every year anyway and see how things are working.
Fine.
Councillor Mumford. Okay. So all in favour of Upper Strand? So that's got a tick by it. Thank you. Number 5, Porthcrester Road. And that is, as far as I can see, out just the other side of...
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose it's nearer Dibble and Grub, isn't it? No. Sorry.
No, it's still outside the building of the TIC and the public toilets, but it's actually at it's at the far end of that building.
It's adjacent to Southerly, isn't it?
We looked at that.
Chair.
Chair.
Thank you. Chairman, for many reasons, not the least of which this would be virtually outside somebody's sitting room window, I really do not support this. But there is also the point that, and this is a road I walk up and down many times each day, as does Councillor Grottick, the access gets easily congested, and I don't want to put anything there that makes it worse. I mean, I would have personally loved to have seen fewer cars in that particular very congested area rather than more. So I cannot support that, and I propose we strike it.
I propose we strike it as well.
Councillor Grottick.
I agree with the Chairman, and that was one of my points. It's very close to a business, an existing guest house, which seems a little bit unfair. And also, we would actually lose 3 valuable parking spaces. I agree with the Chairman. It would be nice if we didn't have to have so many cars around, but they're a fact of life, and we would lose 3 parking spaces, and we can ill afford to do that.
Is anybody in favour of number 5? Everybody against number 5? Thank you. We're losing them, Craig. Number 6, the TIC. Now you've discussed this, so do you want to further discuss the one outside the TIC, knocking the wall down?
Chairman, it's not an ideal site to my mind. I don't like the removal of the wall, but I will go along with it because it is one of the sites that has been identified by the people who've considered it, as long as it goes in tandem with number 3.
It needs to be pretty well precisely where it is. Any further back and you're going to cause carnage when people trying to get up and down that road, because it's a problem at the moment anyway. I mean, it could either go there or nearer the entrance to the beach, but it can't go anywhere between those 2 points.
Councillor Coombs.
I'm probably going to be hated for this, but we've got site 3, which I think is in the bag. For this site, I would like to see a little evidence that the site has been properly measured and drawn up, so we know what we can fit on that site before we actually go forward with it.
I did actually look at it yesterday. It's quite big. There's quite a lot of room there. I'm not a huge advocate for this site, but I think size-wise it's not an issue.
Councillor Saville.
Yes, Chairman, I would like a bit further information, and I think we all agree that on number 3, and that is the aim of actually this meeting to allocate one site. I also agree with the Chairman that a bit of flexibility, but it is rather a nice area, a nice wall was on there, and just to not destroy it is. Would we allow? I asked this question. Would we allow somebody else to do it?
The gardener.
If it came in as a planning application as part of that site, would we support it?
The gardener might have a conflict of interest at this point.
So then, anybody in favour of site number 6? Oh, sorry, Councillor Sims, did you want to say something?
Just referring back to 3, I think we should approve site 3, but I think perhaps it could do with a site visit, because it's a big area of pavement, and the necessity of taking down the wall would seem dubious to me, because it is a very big area. It's half the size of a tennis court. Well, in width. 3. No, it's 3. I know that. No. Oh, right. Fair enough. I shouldn't have gone up full stop. Okay.
Councillor Saville.
Oh, sorry, Chairman.
Right. Well, we haven't made a vote on 6 yet.
Chairman, can I make
Could
another
we
comment?
have a vote for... Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I can't see you.
Sorry, Chairman. Just with respect to gig weekend, then, if you voted in favour of Site 3, you would then be saying that they can't trade over gig weekend. Am I right?
If we voted in favour of Site 3...
For Site 3, so they couldn't trade over gig weekend. Well, that's going to be my point, is whether or not you would delegate some power to be able to re-site them for that weekend so they can trade.
Chairman, if I may, part of the point of putting some slack into the system is there is that contingency.
Councillor Gotti.
Yes, if I could be of help, the third tenderer does have the ability to move around. He can generate his own electricity. I'm sure it's probably more expensive for him, but in the short term, he can relocate to basically anywhere that we allow street trading.
Chairman, may I make a comment? I think it's important that we do not see this in terms of individual traders. We see this in terms of policy.
Anybody.
What works for policy is all that concerns us at this point.
Yes. Councillor Mumford.
We're still on site number 6, I believe,
Yes,
aren't
we
we?
are.
I don't think we should be spending £5,000 either on doing this site at the moment with the council. You know, we're trying to save money. And I certainly wouldn't vote for number 6.
Councillor Coombs.
I was thinking about site number 8. But can we come back to site number 8 once we got through site number 7?
Yes,
I've just got a question on.
So, all those in favour of site number 6, please.
Chairman, may I modify my recommendation just very slightly?
Oh, sorry. Yes, go on. This is, yes.
To the effect that, what does it say, 6 and 3, but with no money to be spent on the area. I really am not happy about removing a wall. If there is enough room and everything without room, which our colleague with a very large vehicle seems to say there is, you know, I will propose 6 because it's been approved by you when you've selected it, but not at the cost of demolishing the wall and removing the garden area.
So, Chairman, just to clarify, Site 6 wouldn't actually be available if we didn't demolish the wall, because obviously we're talking about the kind of recessed area, which at the moment
but
is,
I suggest we
raised.
use it. I suggest we use it just as a temporary contingency, and then we wouldn't demolish a wall just for that, would we? I'm sure we could make do over the course of weekends or ad hoc events with something obtruding slightly. That wouldn't be a permanent feature every night of every week in the summer, would it? It's up for colleagues to decide whether they like that idea or not.
I think 6 with the wall removed is quite difficult to get a vehicle in there. It's only about 14 feet long, and particularly if it's a vehicle on a trailer, it would be a total nightmare to get a vehicle in there. Regarding 6, years and years ago, I think some of us may remember this, the chip van, so I've gone back to the 60s now, it used to work just, well, it was mostly Friday nights really, but just a little bit to the east of the steps. And you've got quite a wide area, and that's not blocking anything. I think that should be a consideration. So 6 could be a lot further up within the square. And then you haven't got a congestion issue. But again, you lose a parking space, but you're only losing one.
But you wouldn't be 25 metres away from the other trading people.
I don't think 25 metres away from other street traders matter.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I would have to declare an interest there because it would park right in front of all the advertising boards, of which I have one of those advertising boards.
But however, people park there anyway, don't they?
I would rather they didn't.
Well, okay. That's another consideration, I think.
Let's just take a vote. Then at the end, then we can make a proposal. Is that okay? Of what we want. We can then formulate a proposal for how we go forward. So, those in favour of number 6?
Based on...
With the caveat.
With the caveat.
Based on no spending.
No spending, just
Can I?
How many have I got, please?
So Nolly, can I
Sorry.
just amend it slightly that the area between where 6 marked and the steps is assessed, because I think there's quite a lot of mileage in having it. I think that particular point is very problematic, but 25 metres west is not. So can we just extend the area from where 6 is marked to the steps to the bank?
Yeah, here. See,
Yeah.
it just, if it goes there.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Claire?
The only disadvantage by moving it is accessibility to any services.
Yeah, I appreciate accessibility. Yes, I get that, yeah.
So can we now have that vote again, please? Because I don't know if you caught it. Who voted, Andrew? Did you? I didn't. 4-4. Who's against then, please?
This is based on not taking out the wall.
Yeah,
Yes.
spending any money.
I'm against it, but I believe that if it's on the highway, you've got issues with vehicles.
Yeah, I agree.
People stood on the highway waiting for their food, so I think I can't see how the South sits on the highway is so that's the train.
So we've got 2 against. Councillor Hicks, did you?
Yeah, I said 4.
4. Sorry, fine. Okay, so that's got to 2. Pardon?
You've got to do with whatever proposal's on the table. And that was the chairman's.
Yeah, but this is just identifying.
Oh, right.
So if we just identify these sites, can we have those for number 6? Five. Against number 6. Abstain. So that's gone. Now number 7. Sorry.
May I just make a general point?
Yeah.
Desk-based exercise or not, to put forward any proposals with a complete absence of measurements or site drawings or even indication of north and south is lamentable, in my opinion, and surprises me on behalf of the former planning officer.
Chairman, we were only following instructions to do a kind of very quick piece of work and just actually identify the potential for each site.
Number 7. Park House. Councillor Gottick.
Yes, bearing in mind Park House's function, it is very frequently, or occasionally visited by ambulances, and they need space, not just to park, but to manoeuvre a person on a stretcher perhaps, or on a wheelchair. So therefore I would like to vote that number 7 is ruled out.
Happy to second that for those reasons, and just the general ones. Ingram's Gap is too narrow anyway. Putting anything there is absolute no-no.
It's narrow enough.
Councillor Sims.
It's narrow enough with a vehicle there. It's certainly too narrow with 15 people queuing.
Then we'll
I think it's
take
impossible.
a vote. Oh, sorry.
Chairman, can I just clarify in terms of Site 6, because obviously Site 6 is predicated on that it will only work if we do obviously some work to that, and we have done a specification which is ready to go out to tender, because we don't know what the costs are going to be. We predict it'll be less than £5,000, but it won't work as is, because without utilising the, if you like, the recessed area, it will actually probably create a highway obstruction in that particular location. So not quite clear in terms of what members have agreed. Is it the proximity of Site 6 or is it Site 6 itself?
It's in the proximity of Site 6. I think members were reasonably clear on the point.
Can we then take a vote on number 7, please? Anybody for Park House? Anybody against? Oh dear. Anybody for number 7? No? Anybody against number 7? That's out. Now, Councillor Coons, can you suggest your number 8, please?
Well, again, we come back to getting the tape measure out and working out what will fit where, because the current 2 sites to the sort of the bottom right-hand corner of Town Hall is, have we actually measured up, have we considered moving the recycling facilities to see whether we can actually fit a 3rd unit in on that existing site?
It's because it slopes.
Yes, I was going to say.
Because the site is sloping, I hope Craig will bear me out on this, that these vans that are cooking oil have to be on a level. And it was said that you can only have 2 vans there because of the way the road slopes.
Can you carry that so it's level?
It's a very practical solution.
Because I just wanted to corroborate that, because that is the reason we rejected it. However, I've never had a satisfactory answer to my question whether it wouldn't be able to level the road surface a bit. But that is not a discussion for this year. But in the future, we do need to cost out how much it would be to do that. I mean, I asked that a number of years ago and still haven't had an answer. So,
I would say we have sort of quite a fascinating slope, because we have vehicles that park at 90 degrees to each other. So one of them is uphill, but equally, Fraser's point, if you're looking at single axle trailers, they can be levelled easily on the jack. So I think we should take a closer look at that, because it's so easy that somebody will say, oh, you can't do it, and then that becomes enshrined in law, when really it's a bit of mythology. So I would like, again, not to derail site 3, I think, for today, but I think we do need to look at that site, check the levels and see what we could actually fit on there, because that would solve a lot of problems. And I'm sure we could find somewhere else for the recycling, particularly with the changing waste collection. That recycling site may change in form anyway.
Absolutely. We looked at that. We went and did a site visit, and we all felt that that was a really strong possibility. Either, as Fraser suggested, even easier than we suggested, that we level that ground, and it probably wouldn't even interfere terribly with the collections of the waste either. I understand there is a building behind it that has a certain classification. I'm not sure what that. Yeah, but we're not going to touch that building. I hope we could go up to it, and there could still be
I feel that it is not beyond the wit of man
It's
to level the hard standing. In any case, that's not for this year. And
No, it's not, but it's a good idea.
But we do need to make sure that the new site is subject to review at the end of the season, and to get proper feedback from people as to how it's worked or not. But parallel to that, I think examination of levelling hard surfacing behind the town halls should be looked at.
Councillor Coons, was that your site number 8?
Indeed.
Thank you. So, Councillor Mumford?
So do we need a recommendation now to...
We do need a recommendation now.
Oh, yes, we've got one.
We did have one from the chairman.
Which I seconded.
Yep.
Did that include not spending any money?
Yes, because I amended it. There was a codicil, if you like.
Chairman, could
I add something to that?
Can we have the proposal again so that we're all very clear what we're proposing? Sorry.
Okay, here's the senior blonde moment. I propose sites 3 and 6 with the caveat that site 6 should not involve the disbursement of any money nor the demolition of the wall. Yes?
Is that all clear?
Both sites would be subject to review after 6 months.
Chairman, may I also ask that you clarify what Site 6 is for the policy, so we can describe it properly? Sorry.
Are we keeping the site 6 where it is placed on this map? Because Councillor Sims wanted it moving along.
I didn't. Well, I don't. I think that it's problematic where it is. However, The area, I said was consider the area between 6 and just to the east of the steps, because you have a big area there.
Could we not change the wording for site 6 and for site 6 to be looked into and a site visit and approve 3? I'm not making that recommendation, but I just wanted to know whether Councillor Martin would agree with that. That site 6, we could have a site meeting and defer that site, as long as we've got one for the current person who would like.
If members are happy to agree that we approve 3 and that we have 6 to be confirmed subject to a site visit, then I have no problem with that at all. As long as we don't have to hold any more meetings to discuss it.
Councillor Gotter.
Both chairmen, perhaps we could agree that subject to a site visit and formal acceptance by the chair and vice chair of this committee, so that we actually do have some resolution. Is that acceptable?
Craig, how are you feeling about this, please, as you part of the person that devised these sites?
Chairman, I'm happy to go along with that recommendation. Well, obviously, we'll need to know what kind of servicing provision would be required, but if they have their own generator, then I don't see that being necessarily a problem.
Councillor Coombs?
Would it be possible to tack on the fact that we will revisit levels and dimensions of the existing plot, because bearing in mind in terms of public perception of what we're doing, I think we do need to acknowledge the fact that we will be looking at more detail, because that's what the community will be saying, is why can't it go in there? So I think if we're going to go and look at 6, we look at 8 as well.
Chairman, the main constraint with 8 obviously is at the moment the provision of the recycling pavilions, and they are the most accessible and the most used recycling pavilions actually on St Mary's, and one of the issues there is obviously the accessibility of other vehicles to actually lift and everything else. Having said that, we will be reviewing also where we have our bring sites over the and it might be that we do an exercise in conjunction with that.
Councillor Coombs?
As lead member for health and safety, which I've yet to work out what it is, to be perfectly honest, but in terms of accessibility, there's one thing that has vexed me slightly with those sites, because when you say they're the most accessible, they're not actually the most accessible for the vehicles collecting them, and I think there is a bit of an issue. The length of reach the lorry has to reach to pick them up from that current site, so there may actually be an issue with that current site in terms of lifting fully loaded recycling bins at the maximum extent of the HIAB.
Councillor Sims?
Just to be awkward, really. Referring back to site 6, the actual specific spot there, the recycling bins could go in that area without the wall coming down, and then they clear at the back of the town hall. Appreciate it's another time. All I'm saying is there's flexibility.
So we have a proposal on the table. We did have a seconder. Are you still happy to second that?
Yes, Chairman.
Did you get the proposal?
Chairman, I've taken that to mean from the egress to the east of the steps for site 6. But to be pedantic, can I also ask what you consider to be site 3 as well?
Well, that's on the edge of the roundabout strip.
Yeah, on the pavement setback.
So it wouldn't block the pathway from the walkway?
Behind that wall,
Chairman, for the absence of any doubt and for the benefit of the member of the press, please would the administration officer read the recommendation?
The one that you proposed, sorry, not the one in here. Would you just like to repeat it, then we'll all know where we are.
How far have they got? want to approve site 3 and approve in principle site 6, subject to a site visit and the approbation of the chairman and vice chairman of this committee, with a review after 6 months. I think that's the essentials of it. Yes.
Can we kind of add so that it will be ready for use for this next season? Yeah. So that it's. Or do you not?
I just think it should be to expedite.
Okay.
As,
yes, that's
yeah.
fine.
Just a bit about not removing the wall.
Yeah. Oh yes. Sorry, I completely forgot. That no money should be spent on this, nor the wall removed.
And you second this?
I do, Chairman.
Yeah. Well.
Sorry.
Can
you
can
want
we
to add something?
bundle that up with reviewing site 8 in terms of levels and measurements, just so we've got it all in one place at one time?
I think, Chairman, if you don't mind, we'll do that recommendation and then we'll do the further one just for the sake of clarity, because this is getting. We also, as Councillor Grodzic has pointed out, we have to consider recommendation 4 in any case. So we've got several recommendations to come.
So, all in favour? Nobody against, so that's fine. Now then, so we've agreed in principle the sites that we need. Well, that we're not using them. So you can't, we don't agree with that. How do we take this? Don't take it, fine. That the identified sites are made available to traders over a period of 3 years, as and when the sites are ready for use and allocated through a competitive process. Can I have a
Chairman, given that this needs to be subject to review, I don't think we could say that they would be available for 3 years at the moment. I think we really do have to give it a season, see how it works, and then we could bring back that condition in the future if we're all, or if the members of council at that time are happy with it.
And that was included in your
Yeah,
proposal,
so I
we
would
don't need that one either.
Yeah.
For clarity, I think you're giving the trader the confidence that they are buying 3 years worth of fixed trading off you. And whereabouts they trade is up to you in essence, and you might change that, but the 3-year rule is really to give them that confidence.
I would suggest that we dropped 1, 2 and 3 because it's not, but we do need to amend recommendation 4 that the fixed site trading policy be amended to include site 3 and 6.
Yes. So can I have a proposal for that one, please?
I'll propose that.
Seconder.
Second, Chairman.
All in favour? Yeah.
And then
we've got to make a proposal
Yeah.
to be looking at site 8.
I am happy to second Councillor Coombs's proposal if he puts his light on.
Councillor Coombs has put his light on and proposed that we find an appropriate set of words to look at the levels and dimensions of the existing site to see whether we can fit a third site on there and relocate the recycling.
So I'll second that.
Can we have a vote on that, please? Thank you very much.
That was our first idea, that one, wasn't it? That thing break was our first idea.
Thank you very much, Craig.
You can see what fun we had the first time round.